Mum sent me a bill for raising $250,000. So I've had quite a bit of good financial luck in my late 20s and 30s. My dad died in 2007, my mum has been riding his life insurance settlement into the ground. She overspent, as in 3 brand new Mercedes among a ton of other idiotic purchases since 2007, and is now having to Airbnb her house to make ends meet. In the past 4 months, I've given her over $5,000 to keep her afloat. Today, I've received an itemized bill in the mail, totaling lodging, food, schooling, entertainment, and vacation expenses that she incurred since the time that I was born. The quote-unquote bill exceeded $250,000. I called her this evening to congratulate her on her hilarious joke when it became clear that she wasn't joking, and indeed felt entitled to $253,032.56 of my money. Her reasoning: I wouldn't be worth 1/10 of what I am now without her influence. She said, "You can afford to lose that kind of money. Why not just give me that before you do pee it away?" This is one of the many reasons that there are more than 2,000 miles in between my front door and hers. This is the last reason I needed to never give her another penny of my money. I've got a therapy appointment on Monday. I can't wait to bring this bullcrap up. 2 things. 1. Quit calling my mum a tramp, or I won't have to ask my dead dad to haunt your ass. She is indeed crazy. She's no tramp. 2. Thanks for the support. It is exceedingly encouraging. Edit 2. Guys, I'm bushed and buzzed. I'm going to bed. May the new year bring us all closer to achieving happiness, whatever that may be. Thanks for keeping me occupied. Love y'all. Our next post was by the user Shy Girl Turned Sassy, titled, "Entitled Mum, Hey teenage girl, let my son grope you." So this happened to me when I, female, was 13 and was attending a male friend's birthday party. We attended the same school, and a lot of other kids from our school were also there, along with their parents. As I gave my friend his present, I wished him a happy birthday with a hug. When he was cutting the cake, another boy from our school, who was a notorious bully, stood right next to me. He kept trying to touch my breasts. I was already quite developed, and I kept telling him to stop, but he wouldn't listen. He kept trying to put his arms around me and trying to grope my chest. His friends were standing around us, and I could hear them snicker. Finally, I had had enough. I yelled at him to get away from me. My friend's mum, the hostess, asked me what was wrong. I told her what the bully had been doing. She sternly told the bully to apologize and to stop harassing me, otherwise she would ask him to leave. Now, the bully's mum, entitled mother, stepped in. She asked my friend's mum why she was scolding her son. Friend's mum explained what the bully had been doing. Entitled mother's response was something like this: "I don't see what the big deal is. This girl hugged your son. Why can't she let my son touch her?" Then she turned to me and said, "You need to stop being such a stuck-up and learn to be friendly. If my son just put his arm around you, what's wrong with that? Stop complaining." I told her I didn't like her son and didn't like him touching me. Friend's mum told her to stop making a scene and that her son needs to apologize. Entitled mother acted indignant, and as she stormed off, she again said something like, "If that girl is okay with your son touching her, she's probably okay with all the boys touching her. You're just being rude to us." My friend's mum was absolutely wonderful. She asked if I was okay and told me I had done the right thing by telling the boy off. This was my first encounter with an entitled parent, outside of my own family, that is. And our next story was posted by user DatIsAlex, titled, "Knocked unconscious on public transport thanks to an entitled mother." For clarification and understanding purposes, I have a medical condition in which my blood circulation is extremely weak. My average resting pulse is at around 45 beats per minute. When I sleep, it can go down to 30 beats per second, endangering my life. When I am physically active, not resting, etc., my pulse rises to around 60 beats per minute. A pulse of around 70 beats per minute for me is like 130 beats per minute for someone with a quote-unquote normal or healthy blood circulation, so I pass out extremely easy. Therefore, I need to be super careful about my movements, actions, and stuff, or else I'll get knocked unconscious in seconds of just standing up. I never thought I'd encounter an entitled parent myself, but unfortunately I did yesterday. It was around 8:30 in the morning. I was riding the bus to university. So I sit there on the bus, listening to music, minding my own business, when all of a sudden someone taps me on the arm, and they say to me, "Excuse me, young man, could you please get up? This is my son's favorite spot on the bus." The entitled ma said. I replied, "What? I'm sorry, but I need this place. The entitled mother then cuts me off. "Come on, there's plenty of room for you to stand. Just get up and give us the spot." So I say back to her, "I really can't. I'm sorry. If I get up now, just get up. You seem fine. Nothing's wrong with you. You're just lazy and don't want to stand." While I'm trying to explain to entitled mother that I have a certain condition in which I need to be careful about my movements because my pulse and circulation is so extremely weak and fragile, she keeps on screaming about how I was stealing her son's happiness and how lazy I am for not standing up for a mother and her child. I was feeling my pulse rising because of the argument and stress this lady was causing me, and I got extremely anxious. I didn't want to pass out on public transport. Her son looked really uncomfortable through this whole argument, and at one point, I tried to tell entitled mother to just leave me alone. The rest of the bus, of course, caught my attention to the situation. All of a sudden, entitled mother grabbed my hand and tried to take my pulse, and she says to me, "Your pulse seems fine. What's wrong with you? Why can't you just stand up?" Her grip was so firm that it left marks of her nails on my skin. She'd pulled me out of my seat, leaving me standing on the bus with an already way too high pulse for me and my condition. I tried to walk a few steps to find something to hold on to so that I wouldn't fall, but it was already too late anyway, and I fell to the ground, getting unconscious in the middle of a bus. What happened after that, I don't quite know. I got conscious laying wrapped up in a blanket on the pavement surrounded by paramedics, the police, and the bus driver. They explained to me what had happened while I was gone. The police took statements from entitled mother, some other people on the bus, and the bus driver, and took entitled mother into custody. They asked me if I wanted to give a statement now or later, when I recovered, and if I wanted to press charges for assault. And of course, I absolutely did. All I heard from her after I woke was just screaming in disbelief and crying. So far, it is sure that entitled mother's health insurance company will have to pay for the ambulance, paramedics, and other following medical bills. All public transport for this specific line was forced to stop for 3 hours just because an entitled mother didn't get what she wanted. Currently, I'm in hospital under supervision. I will be released once they're sure my pulse and circulation is a little stronger. They know they can't cure it, but they said they will try to make me at least a little more stable. Edit. Thank you guys so much for all your lovely wishes. So far, I'm feeling alright and much better. I'm probably getting released tomorrow evening. I will update you if I get any updates on entitled mother's charges. Edit the second. After reading up on some insurance stuff, I think it was some kind of an umbrella insurance policy, and not only her health insurance. I have no big clue how this works, and I can only go with the info the company provided me. But you guys also gave me some nice input. Big factor to take into consideration about this is that I'm German. This happened in Germany. Our next story was posted by user MacMoosey, titled, "How an Entitled Karen Went from 'My kids are in the car waiting for me' to 'He has a gun, call the police' in 0.47 seconds flat." Well, this is not the experience I thought I'd have on my way home from the office this afternoon, but alas, here we are. While enduring my afternoon commute, I decided to stop at the old Walmart to pick up some cat food to avoid having to do it over the weekend. I usually make a point to shop at Bullseye to avoid the Walmart tomfoolery, but Walmart was closer and I was tired. I walked in and immediately experienced the cacophony of Boxing Day that I'd completely forgotten about. The customer service desk line was past Subway and down into menswear, and the checkouts were an absolute nightmare. I had half a mind to turn around and leave, but I resigned to tolerating it now rather than dealing with a potentially worse situation on a Saturday. I made a beeline for the pets section, find the biggest bag of the brand I'm keen on, hoist it over my shoulder, and off to the checkout I went. As I made my way over, I glanced past the employee stationed sections and peeked at self-checkout, which was even more of a mess. I decided to interact with another human in Walmart for the first time in months. As I'm standing in line, I eye a Red Bull in the cooler at the end cap and snag one. I'm perhaps the third or fourth person in line at the lovely 10 or maybe 20 items or less line, a limit that people love to test on an hourly basis. But I digress. It was moving at a decent enough speed for a day like today. I worked in retail and retail management for a collective 6 years, so I pride myself on being one of the most patient and understanding customers on the East Coast. The Karen behind me, however, was not. She had a shopping cart parked too close to my ass for my liking, and frequently sighed and tapped on her foot on the bottom section of her shopping cart, from the sound of it anyway, and tisked and tutted regularly. If I rolled my eyes any harder, they may have dislodged themselves from their sockets. I hate waiting as much as the next person, but what I hate even more are people who feel the need to do so, and make that much noise in the process. The cashier summons the next person in line, and now there's a single soul ahead of me. Karen huffs and puffs again and inches forward, bumping me with her shopping cart. I half turn and glance at the shopping cart, and then at her, giving her a neutral eyebrow raise, hoping she'd get the hint and take a step or two back. Spoiler alert, she didn't. But it was then that she decided that either her bumping me with her cart or my decision to turn around and acknowledge her existence was the green light to bother me. And so it begins. Our cast are Entitled Karen, Cashier, Shopper, Store Manager, Asset Protection, Police Officer, and me, Alexios the Eagle Bearer. Karen. Excuse me. Me. Silence. Entitled Karen gives me a slightly louder, excuse me, so I slightly turn, cat food still hoisted over my shoulder. Oh, me? Yes, could you let me in front of you? I'm tired of waiting. I glance into the Entitled Karen's shopping cart, and I say, I only have 2 things, I'll be quick. Yeah, but I'm tired of waiting. This line is ridiculous. Well, I can't help that, sadly. You kids have no respect for your elders. I'm 26 years old. I am hardly a kid, and you look about 36. You are hardly what I'd consider an elder, and you're certainly not mine. Wow, rude much? I just asked to get in front of you in line. Yes, and I heard you perfectly fine. Look, with respect, if our roles were reversed, I'd totally get you. But you have a cart full of things, while I only have 2. Please, I'm just trying to wait for my turn in peace. Your cat can wait. My kids are in the car waiting for me. Oh, not a me problem. I hope they have supervision. So the entitled mother then emits some kind of guttural growl or sneer. And at this point, the customer/shopper in front of me turns his head slightly to glance behind him and glances at the large bag of cat food over my shoulder and says to me, "Hey man, do you want to go ahead of me?" And I say, "Nah, that's alright. You've been waiting longer than me. Thanks though, I appreciate it." Then Karen pipes in, "I'll go if he won't." And the shop guy in front of me says, "Nah, I wasn't speaking to you." "Why, I never." And she starts emitting more guttural noises. The customer ahead of me took his turn with the cashier, and I, now mildly exhausted from having a 20-something pound bag of cat food over my shoulder, bent forward to prop it against the checkout conveyor belt, since the customer in front of me had it loaded with his items. It is worth mentioning at this point of the story that I have a license to carry and always do. A 9mm compact in an IWB holster in the back of my pants. What I didn't realize was that when I bent forward, my bomber jacket lifted enough to reveal enough to determine what was tucked securely away. In my state, printing, or the outline of a firearm showing through your clothes, or anything of the sort, isn't necessarily illegal. Neither is open carrying. It's just better mannered to keep your concealed carry, well, concealed. Usually to avoid making people uncomfortable or giving someone an excuse to cause a scene, which is exactly what Karen decided to do. And Karen says to me, "You have a gun." And I am silent with an eye roll. "He has a gun! He has a gun!" "I have a license to carry. Will you be quiet and mind your own business?" "He threatened to shoot me! Help! I need a manager! Someone call the police!" Now, the entire front end of the store is looking over in our direction, and I honestly just wanted to sink into the disgusting linoleum and fall into oblivion. The cashier rolls her eyes and picks up the phone to summon Asset Protection and the store manager. Asset Protection arrives on scene first, with the manager arriving a few moments later. Asset Protection says, "What seems to be the problem here?" Entitled Karen says, "That guy has a gun and he threatened to shoot me." Oh my lord. "Ma'am, please calm down. Sir, what's the issue?" I did not threaten to shoot her. I've been waiting in line minding my business. "Sir, if you have a gun, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store. We do not allow guns here." There's no posted signage stating that fact, but that's fine. I'd like to get away from her anyway. "No, I want him arrested. He threatened to kill me." "I did not. You're a fudging liar. You threatened to kill me. You're insane and a negligent parent. Miss, my kids are in the car." "How dare you bring my kids into this? Are you going to shoot them too?" "Excuse me, sir. I'm the store manager. What is going on?" "This woman claims that this man has a gun and threatened to shoot her. I just asked him to leave." Cashier says he barely said a word to her. And the guy in front of me says, "Yeah, he's been standing in line quiet, and she's been harassing him about taking his place in line. He didn't threaten to shoot her. He's barely said anything to her." So the Asset Protection says, "Still, you can't have guns in the store. You need to leave or I'll call the police." So the store manager says, "Excuse me, I don't see a gun. Sir, what happened?" Well, I say, I leaned forward to put the bag of cat food down, since I got tired of holding it, and my jacket must have lifted and revealed my gun. I have a license to carry, and it was concealed. So the store manager says, "We don't allow open carry. Concealed carry is allowed in accordance with our state regulations. Sir, may I please see your LTC?" So I open my wallet and hand over the LTC. Store manager hands it back after looking at it. "Looks like you to me. I apologize for the inconvenience. Asset Protection, meet me in the staff room in 5 minutes. It seems we need to review our policies and guidelines before you ask customers to leave unnecessarily." And Karen pipes up, "No, I want him arrested. He threatened to kill me and my children. Aren't you listening?" Well. Someone in the store must have called the police, because a second later, a police officer approached just as Karen finished screeching. The store manager explained the situation to the officer, who then heard from the cashier and the shopper in the line in front of me, verified my LTC, and dismissed me. So I say to him, "Officer, forgive me. It may not be my business, but Entitled Karen told me she left her children in the car. I don't know how old they are, but given the fact that this whole nonsense took up God knows how long, someone might want to check on the kids." So the officer says, as he's turning to Karen, "Excuse me, ma'am, I'm going to need to escort you to your vehicle." Entitled Karen began another tirade of screaming and arguing, and ended up being removed from the store by the police officer. I don't know what happened to her or the kids. Maybe the kids were of age and could be left alone, but given her appearance and the impression I got from her, they most likely were kids that shouldn't be left alone. Edit. Thank you for all the kind comments and compliments on my writing. I appreciate it immensely. I owe it to my teachers from junior year and senior year in high school, 2 phenomenal women who led phenomenal educational experiences. Edit 2, thank you for the silver awards and the Santa rocket. Edit 3, gold, platinum. Thank you. Edit 4, not sure why my post suddenly has a fake flare. I made a point to message the moderators about it. I can get a copy of the police report if I have to as proof of the incident. And Edit 5. 14 hours later, after messaging the mods about the fake flare, someone decided to adorn me with, "No one responded to my message." Oh well, I tried. Thank you to everyone who read my story and upvoted. Thank you to everyone who commented and asked questions and engaged in conversation with me. My inbox is always open if you'd like to continue some conversations. Thank you to everyone who believed me and didn't question my credibility or the events of yesterday. I appreciate your faith. Lastly, a very special thank you to everyone who gave my submission an award. I've never been gilded in such a generous and immense capacity, and I am eternally grateful. I'm looking forward to doing some more gilding of my own on other people's submissions and spreading the positive love around. For anyone who expressed interest in the police report in the comments and via private message, when I get a copy of it, I'll gladly share a copy. I'm legally allowed to do so. Obviously, once I sharpie out the identifying and personal details. I hope everyone has a blessed 2020. Our next story was posted by user ND1 Online, titled, Younger cousin and his entitled dad expected me to give him a brand new Apple laptop. So this was originally posted on Choosing Beggars, and a few people suggested I repost it here too, so here it is. Over the years, I noticed that the worst culprit for choosing beggars are usually family members, especially the random ones who are sort of related to you, but, deep down you don't really know each other all the well. This incident actually occurred quite a long time ago, over 10 years ago in fact, and I have almost forgotten about it until someone reminded me about it last weekend. Way back, over 10 years ago, I just got a promotion to a new role, and I bought some new tools, including a new Apple MacBook for work. I was living in London at the same time and was in a small flat/apartment, which meant space was a premium. So I decided that I should get rid of some stuff in the house. One of those was a PC that was a few years old at the time. So back then, my grandma used to call me up every few days to chat about stuff, and I mentioned to her about the promotion and the new stuff that I bought and the old stuff that I'm giving away. And, being an old lady whose hobby was basically to phone call the family, she passed this news on to a few relatives. One of my aunties heard the news and told her younger kid. A few days later, my aunt and her kid called me up and said that they'll take my computer. Great! Come over to my place and collect them. So they drove over the next day, and then turned into a long argument with me once they arrived. For some reason, probably due to the fact that my grandma doesn't really know about computers and stuff, or that my aunt misheard it, or whatever, they thought that they were picking up my brand new MacBook instead of my few years old desktop. My auntie, being an adult, was at least understanding that it must be a miscommunication. My little cousin, though, was throwing a huge tantrum over it in my house. He kept going on about how crap the specs of the machine is, and how it would be useless to him. And bear in mind, he wasn't like 8 years old at the time, he was 13 years old. Still a kid, I know, but should be at an age which he should understand that his distant cousin, me, is not going to randomly give him a brand new computer just for homework. My auntie was just trying to get the computer out of my place, and I just wanted to get them in the computer out of my house, and my girlfriend just wanted all the crying. Yep, the 13-year-old boy crying was quite a scene, noises to stop, so she could focus on her work. At the end, they just left. Empty-handed, of course, since the kid doesn't want the old PC, and I wasn't ready to give him my new one. I thought that was that, but then, later that night, my uncle, or my cousin's entitled dad, called me up and demanded an explanation of why I backed out on a deal. And that was not the way to treat family, etc., etc. The phone call ended up with me hanging up on him, which led to a lecture from my grandma the next day over the phone and took me an hour to explain what happened. And that led to a lecture from her to my uncle, which led to more phone calls and argument. My uncle complained that now his son has no computer to use, and I told him he can still pick up my computer, which is still sitting in my house at the time. I did not get an answer until 2 days later, and he sent me a list of the things he wants me to upgrade to the computer that I am planning to give away, with my own money. Obviously, I just ignored them at that time. And you know what? Good job. My family always has a lot of drama, probably stirred up by my very bored grandma, come to think of it. So, very soon, everyone was in on the new storyline to follow. And what happened to the computer? I ended up giving it to a neighbor in the same floor of whom I have talked to a few times. They were in a less fortunate position than us, and their 2 teenage children at the time used to use the computers at school and library for their homework. Once my girlfriend found out about that, it was a natural place to send my computer to. At first, they refused it because they couldn't give me money for it. But we were not looking to take any money anyway because A, it wasn't worth all that much anyway, and B, it was much easier to bring the damn thing just across a few doors than anywhere else. They were our neighbors for a few more years before I moved away from the block. I didn't even think of much of what happened it anymore until recently when I was contacted by the older one of the 2 children. Apparently, he has just graduated from university and just started a job. We talked about a few things, and he thanked me again for giving him the computer all those years ago. Apparently, it's still being used by their parents at their home. It's funny how things can turn out sometimes. Pretty sure my cousin still has not forgiven me for not giving him a MacBook, though. And our last story was posted by user Lil Froggies, titled, Entitled Mum Kills Her Baby. So, not my story, but my friend's. She's a midwife at a very busy hospital, and follows this entitled mother with her pregnancy with a lot of difficulty, because she wouldn't show up at appointments, or show up and demand being seen, to when she wasn't scheduled. Entitled the entire pregnancy pretty much. Anyways, comes to the end of her term, except she doesn't go into labor. No big deal at first. She would just have to come in every few days for my friend to check on the baby and see if she needs to get induced. Except she straight up refuses to get induced. My friend advises her that for now she doesn't have to be, but later if she doesn't go to labor, she'd be risking her life and the baby's, and sets up an appointment for a few days away. A few days later, she's a no-show, so my friend calls. Her patient refuses to go in because she doesn't want to be induced, and that her and God know best. It'll come naturally. My friend calls every few days to try and convince the lady to come in, and finally gets the husband on the phone, explains the risk to him. He convinces the lady to come in for a checkup. Still no signs of labor, and at this point, she's quite a bit overdue. My friend explains once again that entitled mother has to get induced, otherwise she risks the baby and her own life. But entitled mother says the same thing. God and her know best. My friend tells her her baby will die if she leaves the hospital, but entitled mother demanded to be discharged. The hospital cannot keep her against her will, since neither her or the baby aren't in immediate danger, meaning she could still maybe wait a day or two if monitored to be induced, so my friend has to let her go. Fast forward a few weeks later. Entitled mother is now way past being 3 weeks overdue. 2 weeks overdue is usually the very limit for most hospitals, and comes back in complaining of stomach pain. My friends order an immediate induction and checks for a quick echo to confirm her suspicions. The baby died in the womb, because entitled mother refused being induced and her placenta rot. My friend told me it was an awful in the delivery room, not only because they were delivering a dead baby, but also because of the smell of the placenta and the baby. The stomach pains the mother was complaining about was the infection from the rot, and entitled mother didn't even blame herself. She just shrugged it off as God's will, and it wasn't meant to be. She made a full recovery and was let go from the hospital. Totally plans on trying for a child again. Well, that was grim. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Tell me what you think about it down in the description below. I hope to hear from you guys again, and I hope you enjoy these half-an-hour long stories. Love you, and have a good day. Bye.